It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, today we are taking a look at Mottainai. Mottainai is a game from Carl Chudik, and this one is sort of in the same realm as his other games like Uchronia, like Glory to Rome, that sort of game. Games in which cards have a lot of different uses, and they're sort of heady, complex card games. I'm going to be giving you an overview, and I'm not explaining everything about the game, and then I'll tell you what I think of this one, okay? Mottainai. Here we go. Here's what the game looks like set up for two players. The objective of the game is to have the most victory points, and you are going to acquire those by building different gifts, which are here represented on these cards. A cloak, for example, a go set, and by hiring helpers to help you do those things more effectively, and also by making sales from things in your craft bench that you'll eventually sell, and that will score you some points as well. The game is very tricky. If you're familiar with the other games from Carl Chudik, then you know sort of what to expect. But this one has a much smaller set of cards here, and it allows familiarity with this deck of cards so that once you know the cards, then it's a little more straightforward because, well, you will not have as many possibilities, as many weird things that can happen. So, at the beginning of the game, each player gets 5 cards. And on your turn, you are going to pick the tasks you want to do for that turn. And the way that works is, just like cards in other games in this line, they tell you a few different things on the card. So for example, if I want to do a task, then the task on this card would be a smith. I could do a clerk on this one, a potter on this one. But of course, the cards also count as the clay or paper, and obviously as the item itself, in this case a flute, a curtain, etc. And so, let's say it's this player's turn first here with this hand of cards. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the card that was your old task, you're going to throw it here on the floor, which is this common area, and then you're going to pick the task that you'd like to perform that round. So for example, the tasks here, as you can see, are you have clerk, monk, tailor, potter, and smith. Paper here, clerk paper, is going to allow you to take a card from your craft bench and move it over to your sales. So the clerk lets you move something from here over to sales right here. If you do the monk, you're going to take a card from the floor and you're going to put it over in your helpers. So you're going to take one of these cards here. And so, for example, put it there. And now I have a tailor who's helping me. The idea there is that every time I do a tailor action, I now have an extra tailor action for every helper that's sitting there. I have over here the potter, lets you take a card from the floor and add it to your craft bench, and the craft bench is going to allow you to build things from your hand. You'll just be able to look at the craft bench and go, oh, I have enough to build it, boom, it's built. And then the smith lets you build things, but you're going to check if you have the materials needed in your hand, not in your craft bench. And I'll tell you how to craft in a second. So basically, for right now, I'm going to take a look here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a smith. I'm going to stick it under here. That's going to be my task. And then, so that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I actually check everybody else's task, and I'll perform those first, and then I'll perform my own lastly, okay? At the beginning of the game, this is set up face down, so there's nothing there. So I just do my own. The smith action, again, lets me complete a work from my hand. The works have the title, what they are. They give you some special power here. And then in this bottom corner, they have a number, a 1, a 2, or a 3. And that's how much support they need to be built. And so if I do a paperwork, it says 1, which means I have to show 1 paper to build it. This counts itself, however, so really to build a paper, I just need the card. If I wanted to build a clay work, for example, it says 3, so I would need to have this card, and I would need to show 2 more clay cards in my hand. They're not discarded. I keep them. I just need to show that I have them, and then I would build this. So for now, I'm going to build one of these 2 paperworks here, and I'm going to say I'm going to build this one, which says opponents skip your Tailor or Smith tasks unless they reveal a matching card from their hand. So while I have Tailor or Smith, my opponents will not be able to benefit from me having that task showing unless, well, they can show a card to prove that they could do it. All right? So once I build this, then I can put it either here in sales on this wing or in this wing over here on the other side. And what that means is if I put them over here by the helpers, this is my gallery, then these are going to support the helpers, meaning that for every clerk I have over here, if I also have a work that is paper-based, it's going to allow that worker to do double duty. If I put it in the sales area, which is the gift shop over here, then this is going to support paper sales, and they're going to score for me at the end of the game, as well as the things I've built themselves. So I'm going to put it over here in my sales, and then once I've done that, I check that I don't have too many cards, etc. And then it's my opponent's turn, and they're going to, again, discard this card, throw it in here. They'll play whatever action they want to take from their hand. So they could do a monk, for example. I have a smith showing, so they'll do that first. They're going to build this paper crane, and they'll put it here with the helpers. And then they have a monk, and they are going to take this potter, and now they have a potter who is a helper and is helping them. And every time they take a potter action, they can do another one. One more thing you can do every time you have an action, you can do one of two other things instead of whatever that character actually lets you do. You can meditate, which simply means draw a card, set it aside for a moment, and once your round is over, you put that in your hand. Or the other action is you can craft. And when you craft, it's the same way as the way you do it with a smith, but you show the things from the craft bench. They have to be in your craft bench. And so if I already had this in here, and then when I do my, let's say I did monk, but then I'm using their smith first. Let's assume I don't want to do a smith action. Instead, I can craft. I show this from my hand. It needs a support of 2. This is one. This is the other one. Boom. I've built that tablet. This is the basic flow of the game. Obviously, there are things I'm leaving out, but you're going to continue doing this until someone has either 5 things in one of the wings, or there's a couple of other ways the game can end. But at the end of the game, you're going to count up victory points on things that have gotten built. You're going to count up sales, assuming they are supported by things in that wing of the same type. And you also, at the end, count majorities of sales, and anything you've got in your hand, then you might be able to play at that point and get points out of that. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner of Mottainai. Mottainai is a game that's kind of tricky at first to wrap your head around, as are these kinds of games normally. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought that the economy of design here really goes a long way. Glory to Rome has a lot of cards, has a lot of different effects, has just a lot of stuff going on, and it makes the game a little swingy, I think. A little more than I'm comfortable with. The designer's own innovation, I think, is extremely swingy, and I have a big problem with that game because of it. This game has about 52, 54 cards. It's all the cards in the game. And so playing the game several times already leads to some familiarity. You already start to see things you want to do. And I just like that the design philosophy of the game, that sometimes less is more, really does come through here. And I happen to agree that it makes for a really clean, solid design. The game is quick, plays 2 or 3 players, both of which work fine. You could combine decks of cards to play more players than that, but really you don't need to. Again, it's economy of design, economy of choices here. And so I'm a big fan of that. I actually like this game more than Glory to Rome because I like the look of this one, and I like the way it flows. I think it's just a solid, clean, well put together package here, and I'm a big fan of it. I'm very happy with it. So If you're looking for a solid, meaty 2-player or 3-player card game, then I have to recommend this one, Mottainai, especially if you were a fan of Glory Rome, Uchronia, Innovation, that sort of game, because I think you're going to like this one a lot. Mottainai, one of my favorites in that line of games, and just a beautiful, attractive, well put together package. Thumbs up from me. Check this one out, folks.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.